In last week's video, I showed you my indoor greenhouse and how I got rid of my plants because of an aphid infestation, and the aphid has spread the mosaic virus in my garden. I did not get rid of this cocoa plant, or cocoa yam as some call it, and as you can see, the only surviving leaf is this new leaf that it is sending out, and at the tip of the leaf, look at all those aphids. So, and I did not get rid of this brassica, this cabbage, because it seemed to be doing okay, but as you can see, the seeds that it is sending out is drying up. And this one as well did not show any sign of it, but here we go. So pretty much everything, all the plants in here needs to go. So I'm going to get rid of all the plants that are down here because they are obviously affected by the mosaic virus as well. But I want to do an experiment, which is what this video is about. Up here where I have my peppers, this is my red Scotch bonnet pepper and it is flowering, and this is a red long sweet pepper, long orange pepper, and a long yellow pepper. Now look at the long red pepper. If you look at the underside of the leaf, it has a very strange appearance. Now this may look as if it is things that can be brushed off, but when you do this, nothing happens. It's not moving. So it is some form of lesion that is caused by the mosaic virus that is on the plant. So I'm going to eventually get rid of these peppers, but I want to do an experiment before I do so. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to get rid of the plants that are down here, and I'm going to sterilize this soil. And then for these plants, these peppers that are up here, I am not going to remove them until they have produced peppers, or to see if they will. The mosaic virus does not prevent your plants from producing, but it does stunt your plants, which means that you can have deformed produce, or it can be stunted. So we want to see what is going to happen with this. But let me just tell you a story about what happened to me 2 years ago in my garden in Saskatchewan. My plants had leaf uppers, and as you know, leaf uppers stunt the growth of your plants. It has no cure. You can't fix it once the plants get stunted from leaf hoppers, but with proper care, your plants can go on to producing, but the produce will be deformed, just as is the case with the mosaic virus. So I started treating my garden because the entire garden had the issues with the leaf hoppers. So I started treating the entire garden with worm tea and with worm castings to see what would happen. And I was able to get a really nice harvest, not the best that it could be, but I got a really good harvest. Now, this time around, my plants are suffering from the mosaic virus. So the experiment is, I'm going to be using worm tea once per week to treat the plants, and I'm going to be putting a lot of worm castings on the topsoil and making sure that I keep it moist, and to see what happened with these plants. Will they go on to produce? Will the peppers be deformed? Will the plants grow any further? Will the plants look any healthier? What's gonna happen if on a regular basis I treat these plants with worm tea and with worm castings? So that is the purpose of the experiment. And another thing that I'm going to be doing, if you notice in a forest, the plants usually look healthy. But then, in a garden, suffering from the same pest issues as a forest would have, The same pests that are in your garden are most likely going to be in the forest. But then the forest plants don't seem to be struggling the way the plants that we cultivate do. So what is the difference? So I'm going to be observing my backyard where we have a lot of plants that grows wild, because I do know that there are several pests down there. There is the frog hoppers on the plants down there. There are snails and slugs down there. And I'm sure there are other pests that I have not seen yet down there, but the plant does not seem to be struggling. So can we mimic that environment that plants grow in when they grow in the wild? We know that when the plants are growing in the wild, the leaves fall from the plants, the twigs fall from the plant, they stay in the soil, they strengthen the soil. The microbes, the worms, and everything that works together to build that food web helps to protect the plants. So even if insects go and feed on the plants, even if there are diseases that these insects spread, because the soil is so healthy, the plants are able to survive the attack of the insects and the diseases that are there in most cases. So can we duplicate that in our garden to get a better result from our garden? Can we set up our garden in such a way that we mimic that environment, and in the long run, even if there are pests in our garden, we need not worry about it because our soil is so healthy that the plants are strong, they're healthy, and they can stand whatever challenges they face. So that is the ideal condition that I want to create in my garden so that my plants can have the best result possible. So over the course of the next couple years, I am going to be working on getting my garden to that state. Of course, that is going to be interrupted because eventually we will move from this location. But for the time that I'm here, I'm going to try to get my garden to that state where, whether it is indoors or outdoors, the plants, the garden, the soil, everything is so healthy that even if it faced issues with pests, then it won't be too bad. Of course, I'm well aware that growing indoors and outdoors are two different circumstances, which means that for my indoor year-round garden, I may not get the same result as if I am growing outside. But I am going to be doing my very best to mimic what is outside to see what the result will be. So if you're interested in seeing how my experiment goes and to see if you can benefit from my experiment, then please follow along. So every Thursday, stay tuned for a video with update on what I am doing to make that garden what it needs to be. So if you enjoy this video, please share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Yeah man, a time for grow.